Hello, everyone. I am so excited about today. I am an executive leadership coach, and today I get to share just a little bit of my world with all of you. In a second, I'm going to invite Linda on the screen with me. And, so many times I get asked all these questions about leadership and coaching. And three of the most probably common questions that I'm asked about coaching are this. It's like one of them is, how do you just help people get out of their own way? One of the second questions I often get asked by leaders is, what are some tips that you have just around being a better coach? And the last question that is sometimes I'm asked from leaders is, how do you love people but also hold people accountable? And I was sitting here thinking, I could share with you some answers about what I believe, or I can actually show you what I do in real time by coaching someone live on the screen. And so that's what I'm going to do today. Now, before we get started, I have one question for all of you out there in social media world that are watching this right now. I'm going to ask you to do one thing before I get started with Linda. Is on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 means I suck, I can't be any worse. 10 is I am so good, there's no one better. How effective do you feel that you are at actually coaching other people? And I want you to just drop it in the comment section. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how effective do you feel that you are at actually coaching others? Now, whether you're watching the recording later on or you're watching it live right now, I want you to enter your number, at least get you thinking about yourself. And let me tell you what to expect about today. So here's what's going to happen. In a second, I'm going to bring Linda on. As a coach, one of the things that we always talk about is that our job as coaches is not to give people the answers, but it's really to help people create their own answers and to help create the awareness and help them figure out what actions they want to take to move forward. So that's what I'm really going to focus on in my coaching session with Linda today. And then here's what I want you to watch as you watch this coaching session unfold. So I want you to watch my presence about how I show up in the midst of coaching Linda. I want you to pay attention to the type of questions that I ask and the way that I acknowledge and validate what she is going through. And then at the end of all of this, the whole point of coaching is that we move people forward. So my job and what I'm really going to be focused on is helping Linda create the awareness that she needs so that she can move forward at least a step in the right direction for her own growth or whatever her goal is for the day. So I am going to bring Linda on the screen. So there is my friend Linda right there. So welcome, Linda.
Hey, Justin.
Hey there. I just want to say, I know I had a chance to talk to you right before we got on, but I just want to thank you because I know getting on and being coached in front of other people can sometimes be nervous and overwhelming. And I just really admire your bravery, your vulnerability, and your transparency. You are going to make me better today. And I know there are going to be people out here that are watching this, that you're going to help them be better coaches and leaders. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to do this today.
Well, thank you, Justin. I really appreciate you making this opportunity available to me and to everybody watching.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm not going to worry about anything that's coming in. So here's for everyone watching. As we go through this coaching session, drop in some comments about what you notice or what you observe. And if you have questions, I'm going to answer all your questions at the end. But for the time that I'm coaching Linda, I'm really going to focus just on Linda. So Linda, you and me at this moment. So I always start by asking people, what do you really want to get out of our time together today?
Okay, well, Justin, I'm going to be taking a new position starting Monday with a Chamber of Commerce. And like many chambers in the country right now, they have done some downsizing. Mm-hmm. And the remaining staff, sometimes there could be issues with morale and perhaps even fear for their future. And also, because many chambers have had to downsize, I will also be assuming a role of doing as much as I will be leading. So in essence, I'll be a player and coach. And I'm looking for some help and tips as to how I can balance, strike that balance between leading and doing, and hold myself accountable to be a good leader, and to just how to best lead my new staff of one in addition to myself in my new role.
Yeah. So first, I want to say congratulations on your new role. So this is a big deal. So I'm super proud of you. So congratulations. Let's start here. Tell me, what do you feel that success looks like in this new role in the chamber?
Well, I think the two of us working together, maybe collaborating on what the goals and the priorities are, and learning each other's strengths and weaknesses so that we can best support each other and work together as a team.
Yeah. Um, I want to share something I heard you say, and what I really appreciate is you said two things really. You talked about collaboration would help you be more successful, and then you also said that I also have to meet this person where they are so that we can figure out how to move forward successfully. And everything that you're saying right now, Linda, it's all about inclusivity and collaboration. So I'm hearing that from you. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely.
And what do you how is the relationship between you and this other person? Have you all met yet?
We had lunch as part of my third round of interviews, and she was ready to get married 2 days later, and I was just hoping that I got the job. So, I think we both had a little nervous anxiety going on, but she seems delightful. She's done a great job holding down the fort while they've been in a situation without a president, and she seems very enthusiastic about the industry.
Mm-hmm. Good. So you've already said I need to be collaborative and meet her where she is. What do you feel? That's really about your relationship with her. What do you feel that the chamber needs from you so that you could be successful in helping move the chamber forward?
I think after being without a president for a number of months, I think the chamber needs a visible leader and a visible presence, somebody that the membership, as well as the community and the town, can have confidence in. Mm-hmm. and know that the chamber is rebuilding and coming back strong and has a competent leadership team.
Yeah. So you sound so clear in what you're articulating. So how comfortable do you feel at your ability to be those things?
I wouldn't be here if I felt 100% comfortable.
That's what I'm here, Linda.
Talking and doing are two different things.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So tell me there's obviously an undercurrent of kind of a little bit of fear. What's the fear?
Well, having been in the chamber industry before, for almost 5 years, I know the day-to-day reality. And that is, you're putting in 50, 60 hours a week. You're working 12-hour days. There's never enough time to get all the projects done. And, there's the fear of getting sucked into the day-to-day work and not focusing on what I need to do to make sure that I'm mentoring my staff partner and leading and guiding. That goes back to that balancing the roles. I'm just really afraid to shift that balance into focusing on producing work versus leading.
Yeah. Can I share a formula with you real quick?
Please.
In coaching, we know that this is kind of how we think. Our thoughts become our feelings, and our feelings become our actions. I want you to know that for me, because I'm going to explain what you just did. So you're having this thought, oh my gosh, I know what it's like in the chamber. Well, you're going to be working so many hours, and I'm going to get sucked into so much in the day-to-day that I'm actually afraid I'm not going to lead and be able to build the relationships I want and move people forward. That's what I heard the thought is, right? So when you have that thought, what are the feelings that come up for you when you actually have that thought?
When I have that thought, I think to the person that I'll be leading, and I wouldn't want to be in her shoes. Mm-hmm. I think that I would be letting her down, and that I would not be the partner and leader and mentor that I want to be for her and that I feel she deserves.
Yeah. But when you have that thought, though, that you're like, oh my gosh, I know what it's like. I'm going to get sucked in the day-to-day and not be a great leader. What feelings come up for you inside?
A lot of fear and anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, right? So I'm afraid I'm not going to be a great leader. So then I get this anxiety. And then what do you think are the actions that you take when you start to feel anxiety?
Probably going into defense mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And think about it. So now as leading this chamber, what impact do you think it would have if, okay, I'm getting overwhelmed. Here I am getting caught in the day to day. I'm having all this anxiety come up, and now I'm going to kind of latch down and kind of either control or do all these other behaviors. What do you think the impact would be if you showed up that way?
Uh, Certainly very negative. Um, I think the impact would be that I wouldn't be open to new ideas. I would try to, be this, um, you know, too much of an independent person going forward without input from others and almost being defensive. I don't see anything good coming from that.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that we do in this example is there's going to be two kind of activities I want to do with you. One is we teach people change the thought and you will eventually change the actions because the thoughts become the feelings become the actions. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get overwhelmed. It doesn't mean that sometimes the work is not going to be taking a little bit more time over maybe the management part. But what is a more empowering thought that you could own versus, oh shit, I'm this day-to-day stuff's going to get me and I'm not going to be a great leader. What is a more empowering thought that would actually serve you as you go into this new role?
I think a philosophy that I've been formulating as I prepare for this position is that building the relationships is what's most important to any chamber of commerce,
Yeah.
and that it needs to take a front seat to any of the day-to-day activities, because if you don't build the relationships, you've got staff burnout, you've got turnover, and all of those things that don't help a chamber progress. So making sure that I put those relationships first and find a way to put the emphasis on the relationship building as I take on each task. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. And what I hear you saying is the thought might be it's all about relationships. And if you could own that thought that it's all about relationships, and I love this line that you said, Linda, is that it's all about relationship building and it has to take the front seat. And if that was your thought, what would be the feelings that come up with that thought?
I feel actually a sense of calm. Like, this is going to, if we get along and we work together and we all listen to each other and get on the same page, it's going to be all right. There might be deadlines that we don't meet, or maybe we can't bring in 100 new members, or, there might be some things that we don't achieve, but yet there's this sense of calm that, what we did achieve, we did together and we're better for it.
Yeah. And you actually just answered even the last part, right? Because the feeling was that sense of calm. So what are the actions that result and it's everything you just said is like, we're in it together. So I'm going to be more collaborative, which is what you said in the beginning. When I said, Linda, what do you think it's going to take to be successful? You're like collaborative, meeting people where they are. And everything that you just said that comes as a result of that thought is everything that you said it takes to be successful. And so in those moments, right, that you're sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, it's figuring out what is this new mindset that I can choose to own that will better serve me. Doesn't mean we ignore reality. It just means that we're going to choose the one that's going to be more empowering for us in the way that we want to show up. I want to share one other thing with you is sometimes though, some people are like, Justin, I'm so overwhelmed. I can't just change my mindset like that. So there's a quote I want to share with you, and then I'll ask you the question. The quote is from a guy, I think he's the guy that founded Habitat for Humanity. And so remember the formula, thoughts equals feelings, feelings equal actions. He says, sometimes it is easier to act yourself into a new way of thinking than it is to think yourself into a new way of acting. So, right, I'm trying to get you to think, okay, change your mindset, Linda, change the thought. And he's saying sometimes that's too hard. Sometimes you have to start with the actions and then you act yourself into a new way of thinking. So here's an example. So I want you to share with me a leader, and it could be a chamber leader or anyone. Who is a leader that you really admire more than anyone else?
Oh gosh. Wow. There have been many. My personal mentor in the chamber world would probably be a leader that I have very strong admiration for. He shepherded me along, got me introduced to this industry, and has stayed by my side through thick and thin. And I greatly admire him.
Yeah. Share what would you say are the top 2, 3, or 4 actions that he did that helped make him so successful?
Well, I know one of the reasons that I have so much admiration for him is he made me feel capable and worthy and um, competent, and that made me that gave me the encouragement and the courage to stick it out in this industry.
Mm-hmm. I love that. What else?
Um, he he had this great ability to not care what other people thought. He had a tremendous confidence in himself and his abilities, and he just charged through with what he felt was right and didn't get bogged down with what people thought about him, thought about his actions, or what speaker he might be bringing to the chamber. I mean, he just charged ahead with full confidence.
Yeah.
I really admired that.
All right. Anything else you would say?
I'm sorry?
Anything else you would say about the traits that you really admire about him?
Um, he he had a gentleness, a very, very gentle manner, and it was soothing. And he just always had a way of making you think, it's going to work out, it's all going to be okay, and just a great way of putting things in perspective.
Yeah, I love that. And I can tell as you talk about him, just the level of reverence that you have for this man. So it's pretty cool to even watch how you like your demeanor changes as you talk about him. And so let me ask you this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 sucks, 10 it can't be any better. How well do you feel that you are about making people feel confident or capable and competent, as you said?
uh, 4 maybe. I've got a long ways to go.
All right. I'm coming back there. We're coming back. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you feel that you are about not caring what other people think?
Yeah, that's down there too. 3, 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of insecurities.
Okay. And then what, on a scale of 1 to 10, you said he had this gentleness. How well do you feel that you have, how well do you feel that you do it embodying that gentleness?
I'm a little better in that end. I've done some teaching and so forth and coaching on my own. So I think I'm, developing a little bit of empathy there. I would maybe get myself up there to a 6, 6.5.
Okay. Yeah. So a second ago, you just the line that kind of jumped out at me. You said, "Oh, I got a lot of insecurities." And so tell me about what's coming up for you when you say that.
I think just lacking confidence. Well, that's a trick question because I feel very confident in my abilities and my skills and my knowledge, but I don't feel as confident in expressing that to others and portraying that confidence to others. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yes. My what come up for me as a coach is I'm sitting here thinking, why do you feel the need that you have to express it to other people?
I um That's a good question. I feel that if I can't appear confident, I'm not perceived as confident, even though inside I've got the confidence in my knowledge and my abilities.
Yeah. So what I think I heard is this different line is I want to make sure that how I'm showing up externally complements what I feel inside. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So tell me, what in your mind does confidence actually look like outwardly?
Gosh, it's everything from your physical appearance, demeanor, tone of voice, um, you know, the presence you have in the room, the reaction to others in the room,
Mm-hmm.
to me, to my presence, whether people are listening or, looking for the door to escape. I think all of that.
Okay. So what I heard you is right. You said, I feel confident in my abilities inside, but sometimes it doesn't translate outwardly. So we can't focus on everything, but I want you to choose one of these. What is one action that you think you really need to do better so that you show up with that outwards presence that you really want?
Oh, um, I think just being in the moment, showing up, whether it's if it's in the boardroom with the board of directors, showing up fully engaged in that moment, letting my mind be distracted by any worries or anything of that nature, and just going all in and committing myself to that time with that group of people and doing what needs to be done
Yeah.
in that moment.
What do you think prevents you from doing that as far in regards to the past? What has prevented you from being able to show up that fully present and engaged?
I think too much distraction. What is this person thinking about me? Or, oh, that person looks disengaged. Or, oh, they're not agreeing. I can see that in their face. They're nodding no. Just thinking all of that and maybe having those fears escalate, and imagining and reading too much into it.
Yeah. Um, so can I share two tactics with you? This is not coaching. I'm going to step into kind of more of a different role, but I want to share just because you said two strategies that I've used with other clients that have really helped them in those situations. One is a quote or a line that I heard was from the CEO of Taco Bell, former CEO of Yum Brands. His name was Greg Cree. And he said this line, I don't know if I've shared it with you or not before. He said, stop trying to prove that you belong and act like you belong. And that line fundamentally changed everything in my career and has helped clients that I've coached. So, and now I'll ask you the question, what's the difference between acting like you belong versus trying to prove that you belong?
I think acting like you belong also gives you that sense of freedom. You can walk into the room and believe in your heart and mind that, hey, I belong here, and what I have to say or do here and accomplish today, I'm capable of doing. And you, again, free yourself of all that negativity and all those insecurities.
Yeah. You don't have to wear the insecurities of other people and don't have to create all these stories and wear them on your soul. And you're walking in with all this extra baggage to say, no, I'm letting go of all of that. And because you already said inside, I already feel that I have this competence to be able to do this role effectively. So I'm going to walk in this room and not try to prove it to every person in that room how smart, talented, and fabulous I am. I'm going to walk in and act like I already belong. And I'm going to refuse to own other people's insecurity. Is that what I heard?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
powerful.
you just said it much better than I did.
No, listen, you were saying it. I'm just repeating back what I'm hearing. The other tactic that I actually learned, it's actually a technique in Buddhism. They say the root of all suffering is attachment. And I want to explain that for you a second, then I'm going to ask you what it means to you. We get so attached to what we think should happen in a meeting. We're so attached to the outcome that we want by the end that we can't show up present in the moment because we're like, oh my gosh, that person's disagreeing. What I'm supposed to get to this end result that I want, but now I've got to figure out how to switch directions and get them and get their buy-in. And so when we're so attached to the outcomes that we want for this meeting, for our kids' lives, I'm so attached to being a successful president of a chamber. When we're so attached to the outcome, it completely oftentimes will derail our success in the future, because we're not able to be in the moment with people and let it unfold how it's going to organically unfold. So what comes up for you when I shared that line?
That's incredible. And the first thing that I thought of was that when you're so focused on what you think needs to be the outcome of that meeting, you're closed to any alternative options. You might have a goal that you want at the end of that meeting, but there could be something that you did not even consider that could be even better, but you aren't allowing yourself to get there.
Yeah. And now I'm going to bring it full circle what you said in the beginning, because when I was like, hey, Linda, what does success look like? You were like, I'm going to be super collaborative, because that's what the chamber needs. And they need people that are relationship builders. Well, it's hard to be collaborative or relationship builder when you're so attached to the things that you want. And when you can detach, and that doesn't mean we don't go in with an idea of what we think should happen, but when we can let go of that and say, I'm going to let it unfold, I'm going to share my perspective as I see it, but I'm not going to be so attached that I can't listen and be present and engaged with other people. And so it would allow you to be and show up the way that you said that you wanted to show up from the beginning.
Okay.
So at least two strategies. I'm thinking about how do I display that outwardly confidence, stop trying to prove that you belong and act like you belong. And the second one was to detach from the outcomes that I believe I want, and really to allow myself to listen and be open to where the conversation goes. Okay. Let's not focus on this entire, like, your whole role as the president. I want to say, in the first month that you're there, what do you want to what's the most important thing that you want to accomplish in the first month?
Wow. Personally or professionally?
Give it to me.
Okay. Personally, I want to feel the joy of something new, a new challenge, in an industry that I like and invested a lot of training and time in, and pride in this new opportunity. So I definitely want to feel that in the first month. And I think and in the professional side of things, I want to feel that I have allies with my new staff partner and with my board, that we are allies and we're partners, and that we've gelled in that manner in the first month, so that we can take on whatever awaits us.
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, Linda, how empathetic do you feel that you are? 1 is I'm not empathetic at all. 10 is I cannot be any more empathetic. That sometimes I'm so empathetic, people take advantage of me.
9.
Well, I was kind of feeling it. That's why I was asking. I didn't want to assume. So I'm going to share why I asked that question, because what I love about your heart right now as I'm listening to you is you said, this whole thing has been about collaboration and relationship building. And I, say professionally, I want to have allies and partners. And then I'm coming up here thinking, in my head, my thought was, what is she going to do when she gets someone that's completely egotistically on her board or as a member who doesn't care about building relationships with her, and they want what they want? And then I feel like that's where the rub starts to happen, is you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing my job. Oh my gosh. And then all your insecurities are going to get triggered when it's really about sometimes other people. So can I share a line that Mark Zuckerberg shared at Facebook?
Yes.
So I think it was Mark Zuckerberg in his first meeting with Sheryl Sandberg. He said to her, in something I read, it's probably Sheryl Sandberg's book. She said, in the first meeting, he said to me, your desire to be liked is going to hold you back. Your desire to be liked is going to hold you back. Tell me what comes up for you when I say that.
I can relate to that. I've had that desire's been too strong for me in the past.
Hmm. And how do you balance the desire to want to authentically build relationships, but not feel the need to be liked by people?
I don't know. That's why you're here, Justin.
So, well, let me say it a different way. How will you know when you start to cross over that line into wait, I'm trying to be liked here, versus, because right, there's a difference between I want to authentically build relationships with people because that's who I am. And I can tell, Linda, that's who you are. You authentically want to build relationships with people, which is what I love about you. But there's also a point where we start manipulating or using or getting taken advantage of because we want to be liked and loved so much. That's the insecurity. When I want you to really think about your journey that you've been on. When do you feel, or how do you know, or will you know when you maybe start to cross over in the desire to be liked portion?
Well, actually, one of the things that I've learned since taking your very first class and reading your book is I've developed a stronger ability to notice it, as you say, when I'm stepping out of my authentic self. You know, I'm learning to take that step back and recognize what emotions I'm feeling inside.
Mhm.
And if they're if they're emotions that are not making me feel good, I know I need to step back and focus on that and reflect and try to, I guess, reframe the situation before I take any action.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, I've never asked this question, and I'm gonna see. I hope it comes out clearly. So challenge me if it doesn't. Part of what you and I are talking about is not hustling for to be liked, right? I want to build authentic relationships, but I'm not going out in the chamber and with members. I'm not going to hustle to be liked because that's me trying to prove it to people. What are some actions that of hustling to be liked? What does that look like?
To me, that comes across as people pleasing. Just it's not attractive, and yeah, and I think quite often, specifically to our industry, that's where a chamber tries to be everything to everybody, and you can't be that. Sometimes it's not a fit for a specific person or a specific business, and yeah, it's
Yeah. I love that. So even if that would maybe be your filter, right? The moment I feel as this chamber president that I start to people please, I realized I've crossed over into hustling, and I'm hustling to be liked. And I've stepped out of my own truth. That's not serving the chamber and the relationships that we need and want. And it's not serving me in the way that I lead. And so what do you feel like needs to happen differently in those moments? Because they're going to happen. So in those moments that you start to feel that, what do you feel like needs to happen differently?
to listen
Yeah.
to listen to that other voice. The person that might not agree, or the person that might be trying to take advantage. Listen and find out where they're coming from.
Yeah. Right. And what would maybe be the thought that you could tell yourself in that moment that would be more empowering for you?
It's not me. It's not me. It's not about me.
Yeah. I love that, right? When you say it's not about me, how does that help? How does that better serve you?
It better serves me to, um, I think to be less defensive and less judgmental of the other person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. So, um, I'm going to ask a couple, just a few more. I'll start wrapping it up, but I want to ask something. Earlier, when I asked you about that leader you really admired, when I asked you, what score would you give yourself about your ability to make people feel capable and competent? You gave yourself a 4. So tell me if you could just move that up to a 5. And you say, I want to do a better job at just making other people feel capable and competent. What could you do to move that number up just one number?
I think the better coaching and leading, if it happens to be my new staff partner, really understanding where she wants to be in her career, what she wants to learn from me, how I can help her and guide her, and validate that, and then meet those needs. And I would feel that I've been successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, Good. And I think so. You sound really clear, and it's about I'm just going to try to keep myself. Um, I'm going to try to honor that as I move forward, and that's what it's all about. And then you give yourself permission to change as stuff happens. Um, so when we started, you said, "Hey, I'm starting a new position, and I obviously want to figure out how do I become and set myself up for the most success." So what are you taking away from this? That to be more successful and to set yourself up and the chamber up for success, what do you feel that you need to do? So I'm going to say that again. What did you learn from this time, our time together, that you can do to be a little bit more successful?
Gosh, many things, but I think the one that I'm going to prioritize is acting like I belong versus trying to prove it. That is something that I really need to work on, and that I think is going to bring me tremendous results.
Yeah.
Because I do belong. So,
Yes, you do. Can I you want to can I do you have a little bit of time? I can go much further than that if you would like to go there.
yeah.
So in coaching, we all have this story, Linda, that I'm a not good enough story. We all have it. So right, I'm not smart enough, talented enough, beautiful enough, skinny enough, whatever. And in coaching, they call it kind of like your inner gremlin, right? We all have it, and they teach you to name it. And here's why: because we're all going to have moments where it gets triggered, where in that moment I don't feel liked enough, I don't feel smart enough, I don't feel lovable enough, and that story is very deeply rooted in our psyche. So they teach you to give it a name, and here's why. Because right now, we've learned to identify it as who we are. And it's not. It's a story that we've told ourselves, and I'll show you why in just a second. But if you can give it a name, sometimes we give it some just ridiculous name that has no power. So like Rufus, right? And say and the reason why is when that moment, that thought comes up, you need to be able to say, Rufus, we're not going there today. Because you need to see it as something, not as yourself. Because that isn't the truth of who you are. The Linda that I know is a badass. She's all about growth. She is competent. She has everything it takes to be successful in this chamber. And so that's the truth of who you are. But you're going to get triggered by other people, by the work, what happens in society. And in those moments that you're triggered, that voice is going to start kind of seeping out. And you need to be able to say, stop it. That I know who that is, right? That ain't me. That's Rufus. So we're going to do like a quick little study. If you could give it a name, and you can change it later, just give me some crazy name that has that you're like, ridiculous name.
Oh gosh. Um, Gosh, I'm drawing a complete blank. Ex-husband.
I love it. So, okay, well, I won't pressure you. So you think of a name later, and
Okay.
here's why. So if I could ask you this whole idea of I'm not good enough, under the word good is something deeper. What do you feel is your word? So I'm not smart enough, talented enough, confident enough, pretty enough, lovable enough. What would you say it is for you? Under the word good is what? It's something much deeper.
Um, I'm not polished enough.
Okay. Yeah. So here's the work. And if you and I need to have another session by ourselves and dig even deeper, we will. But what I want you to know is that what was the earliest memory that you have of when you created that story, that I'm not polished enough?
Oh wow. Um, maybe perhaps just starting my career, where I found myself surrounded by everybody that I thought was beautiful and well dressed and well mannered and carried themselves with such poise and grace, and I felt like this you know just the complete opposite, completely out of place. And every now and again, I still feel that way. I'll compare myself and think, I'm the least polished in the room, and I'm, so rough around the edges or something. Yeah.
And especially right when you're thrown into an environment where you are maybe with people more seasoned, or when you first start out have more money, and you look at all these people, it can bring up a lot of those insecurities. Here's what I want you to learn: what happens psychologically. Early, when we create that story, it was actually there to protect you. So if you could buy in that moment, right, when you're looking around at all these people and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not polished enough. How would that story and you saying that, because I think all actions serve a purpose, how did that serve you back then? Do you have any thoughts how that might serve you back then?
I think, it probably made me shut down. I was afraid to speak up. I was afraid to share ideas, ask questions, maybe for fear of feeling or appearing stupid. Just shutting me down.
Well, and so often this voice, the reason I'm sharing that with you is because every time you ask someone, what is your earliest memory of not feeling good enough or polished enough, they'll always take you back to a certain example. And oftentimes in those moments, we subconsciously create that story to protect ourselves. Because if you can believe that you're not polished enough, then you won't be disappointed when they tell you you're not. And so that gives me permission not to own my voice. And that means when I don't get the promotion, or I don't get the job, or I get let go, whatever, see, there it goes. I'm not polished enough. That's why it happened. And so it's a way that we subconsciously create a story to protect ourselves. So it was there to protect you. It's just no longer serving you. And so what's happened is over time, right? Then what we do is we reinforce it. See, not polished enough. See, here's my example again. And now we start to believe it, and it really starts to hold us back. So what we do is the first step we always teach people is to give it a name. So if you do nothing, Linda, for the next 2 months, I just want you to realize and be aware of when that story starts to come up for you, and you be like, I'm going to use Rufus today. You'd be like, Rufus, we're not going there. That's not true, right? It might have been true when I was 20 or 18 because I was young and inexperienced, but it's no longer the truth of me and who I am now. And so here's the last thing. Just as that you gave that voice a role when you were younger, you can give it a new role. So in the moments that you start to feel it creeping up, I want to invite you to give that voice a new role in your life that better serves you. So instead of not making you feel like you're not polished enough, what's a new role that you could give this voice that would better serve you?
Maybe a role of empowering me to prove that I am enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so to say, I'm going to, in those moments that I start to feel it, and say, Rufus, what I need from you right now is to remind me that I can just act like I belong, because I have tons of experience in this industry, that my voice is really is meaningful, and someone in this room needs to hear it in exactly the way that I'm going to say it. And I don't have to have all the answers, but I'm going to listen, and I'm going to chime in when I feel like I can move the conversation forward. Right? And so how would that better serve you?
Gosh, I mean, in every way, the confidence in the boardroom or with staff or even with members, I can see that serving me in so many different ways. Being able to coach somebody because I have the skills and talents to do so. That's the missing link.
Yeah, it often, I don't usually go over it in the first session, but I heard it when we were about to wrap up. I heard it and I was like, let's go there, because I don't want to dismiss it, because that is you just said it, Linda, that's the root of all confidence. That's where it comes from. So not recognizing that story and not trying to work on it or resolve it is going to hold you back forever. It would hold any of us back, right? So it's just be aware of it. I had a boss once who said, the problem with you, Justin, is you just want to, every time like she said, sit in the bath water. That was her analogy. It's like, sit in the bath water, because so many people, when it gets cold, what we want to do is we want to get out And she's like, you need to sit in it. And so instead of changing the voice for right now, I just want you to be aware of when it happens. And when you're aware that it's coming up, then you can say, okay, I'm aware, and I want to choose a different story to tell myself, which will only better serve you. And this is the final thing that I'll say is you're still beating up the young woman who didn't have the skills and confidence back then, right? And so now we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and we're still beating up the young kid or the young adult that didn't know any better. And now we get to be the champion for them that maybe they couldn't be back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love that. So I'm going to summarize. I'm going to say one final thing is I'm going to ask you this question again. What are you going to take away from today?
Oh gosh, I mean, just so much. But again, I have so much to offer and so much to bring, not just to this new position, but just to the world. And I'm excited and enthusiastic to just unleash that and start a new chapter and enjoy myself in this next chapter.
I love that. I want to say I always end by trying to, by validating. I want you to know that the woman that I see is someone that has all the confidence, the charisma, and the relationship building that she needs to be successful. And I really hope that you just take in that mindset that you just shared, and knowing that it's going to be hard sometimes, that some people are going to test you, but you can always choose to come back to that story that you just said. And when you find that you're not enjoying it or the relationships aren't going well, to say, okay, I'm going to take a step back and figure out what we can do. Is it me and what can I control? Or I'm just going to not try to people please, depending on the situation. I just honor where you are. I'm so proud of you for getting a new role. That chamber world, I really think it's an important part of every community, and you're going to be leading that in a community around you. And I don't take that lightly. And so I honor the work that you do and the contributions you make, not just to your community, but to the world. And I'm really proud of you.
Well, thank you, Justin, and thank you so much for spending this time with me and helping me work through some of these issues. I know that I've learned a lot today, as well as I have from your in-person sessions and your books and everything, and you've really helped me develop as a better person. So I thank you.
Hey, my pleasure. I'm always there for you. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you, Linda. All right, everybody. So here's what I want to do. I haven't looked at any of the comments or the questions, but here's what I would like to do. If you have any thoughts or observations about what you noticed, or if you have any questions about coaching, I'm going to stay on for just a second more. So feel free to put those in. I'm looking at some of the comments, what you all were putting in your numbers of what you gave yourself as far as how effective you are at coaching. So any comments or questions, drop them in. So proud of Linda. I'm going to be actually coaching someone else live. I believe it's this Thursday. So I'll be doing another session this Thursday. You'll probably notice one of the things we always say is coaching is not about giving the answers. That doesn't mean sometimes that they might ask us, what is your thoughts? I always try to really make sure that I ask the questions first and get them thinking about their own thoughts and ideas before ever trying to contribute anything. And so I hope you took something away from the day in regards to the presence that I showed up with, the way you ask questions, and really asking open-ended questions that get them to look at themselves and then acknowledge and validate what that person is actually experiencing. So hope it gives you something to think about. I hope you learn from it. No one tells you they believe in you. I believe in you all. Thanks for watching. If you know someone that you think would find this valuable, share the video with them. All right. So I will see all of you on Thursday.